AI. We are entering 2023 and AI is already taking over the world. With new AI technologies are out, are web developers and software engineers under threat of being replaced? Well, do not lose hope yet. Hi, my name is Mark from Marcodex, and today we'll try hands-on to see if an AI can indeed replace the software engineers or not. So, if you have been in tech industry for the last at least couple of years, I'm pretty sure you've at least heard of ChatGPT. And if you haven't, here's the answer to your question, what is even ChatGPT? Now you're all caught up, here's a plan. I will attempt to build a web app from scratch using Vuejs, which is a framework that I have very small knowledge of. And then I will only use AI or ChatGPT in this case to build the same app and see if AI will definitely replace us or not. So, you ready? Let's get into it. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the plan is just to build an app from scratch using Vue. And again, I don't have a lot of experience with Vue. I built a couple of apps way back, and that when Vue 3 didn't even came out that time. So I really don't have a lot of information about Vue. So I'm just gonna start from scratch. As you can see here, I have VS Code open and a folder or directory called expense tracker. I have my Vue.js documentation already up, and that's kind of like the resource or the main resource that I'm going to use to build our app. Okay, so here's how the app, at least, like I just mocked a simple kind of layout of how the app is going to look like, and it's just gonna have a title. It will have like two input fields, one for the description, one for the expense, and it will have two I would say like two buttons, one to delete the whole thing and one to edit, which it will change to save once you in edit mode. So if you are in edit mode, these will be inputs, and if you're not in edit mode, those will be like text field or just a div or whatever, like just to show the actual value. A line separator and a total, and this total will calculate however like many expenses you have. So it's really simple, and yeah, I'm gonna need a button as well, somewhat here, that says new expenses, and maybe like we can just like do this as medium, enlarge in this. So yeah, like a simple button just to kind of do all the addition to like every single expense. So each time you're gonna click it, it will just add it, and it will just add another one of these. Let's just move on. Let's just move these below a bit, and basically once you click that new expense, you'll have another line will just pop up, and it will have it will be in edit mode, and you'll keep adding stuff here. So that's kind of like the plan. I didn't want to make the app very complicated because this is probably going to take longer, and this is like not a video about like learning how Vue works. It's just about to show, hey, if you're a developer and you've been developing for a while and you want to go and build up an app with a new framework, what's going to happen? A lot of embarrassments, I guess. So yeah, that's our app, and this is where we're going to start. So we're going to take this layout. This is our starting point. And from here, we can go ahead and start with the documentation and installing our app. Okay, so we're going to go ahead to install. And then it seems that we need just to npm init. And we could hit enter. And it gives us a project name. Well, I should have used the period here. So I'm just going to cancel out, clear the window, do it again. And I use the dot, and the dot will say install the app within the main folder, because before it wanted to create a new folder inside expense tracker, but I want my code to be here. So it's going to ask us for a package name. We're going to name it expense-tracker. TypeScript, yeah. JSX, interesting. I didn't know Vue uses JSX. I'm gonna say no because I wanted the Vue experience. I don't want to utilize my knowledge with JSX. Since I'm a React developer, I know a bit of JSX. And besides, Vue router, single page application, we don't need that. We're just gonna have like a single page. Pinia for state management. That's awesome. They're offering state management, but no, we don't want any state management. We're gonna use like bare bone skeleton app. VTest for unit testing. This is interesting. Like they're using Vite for like on the get-go. That's awesome. Kudos. VTest for unit testing. We don't need any unit testing. Obviously, if you're doing a production app, you're gonna do that. No. ESLint, yes. Prettier, yes. Great. We have our app. Awesome. Let's actually do, so it's asked us to npm install it. So we're going to do that. And while is that happening, let's explore what we have. So apparently, like, it seems this is like clearly a Vite app. It uses this Vite configuration. It does have tsconfig because we asked the app to actually, or the package to install these. So that's good to set up everything. Dev dependencies, we have a lot. We have a dependencies. We have a dependency of Vue. That's good. And then all the rest are dev dependencies. That's great. I'm just going through while this finishes just to read what happens. It has a lit command. That's great. A script. So div, build. All these are great. Awesome. So let's clear out the window. So now we have this installed. It seems I'm having an error here. And I'm assuming this is like, once I hit save, it's just gone. So apparently it's just maybe some ESLint config stuff. So let's look at our source. And first of all, let's hit run npm run dev. And let's see what does our app look like. And it doesn't look like much. It's just, that's great. But we spin up an app. It didn't take us a while. That's awesome. Kudos for all these kind of boilerplating. I like it, honestly. It's very great. So let's look at our main TS, which I'm assuming this is like where the app is actually mounting, which my assumption was correct. So this is kind of like React also uses the same thing, but they use create app, which apparently, it's like a Vue kind of functionality that mounts to app, which we should have an index HTML, which is here. And this is our entry point to the app. This is where the magic happens. It seems like they're using a script, which is importing that main TS. That's great. And we have our components and assets. Awesome. So what I'm gonna add, I need to add UI framework. I'm gonna use Tailwind for this one since everyone is using it these days. And I will hook up Daisy UI to the app. And again, to mention, like Tailwind, I've built a couple of apps with it, but I honestly also don't have much of experience with it. So why not learning while we're learning Vue? Let's do that. So I'm going to open up Tailwind. I'm going to open up Daisy UI. So this is our other framework. Let's see, components. And we want to know like how to install and hook up these. So these are the two things that I want to do at first. So yeah, we'll get, oh cool, they have like the view setup. They have like a full app. Okay. I'm assuming you just install it and you add the plugins in our Tailwind, but let's go ahead and just set up Tailwind. But now what I want to do, is it different from Vue? If this is just like for any other project, but this is different. Is it different? I don't know. Let's actually just try it. First, before we go there, let's clean up the project. Let's delete everything. Let's just keep it bare bone. So these components All these I'm going to delete. Move to recycle, sure. The app crashes, that's expected. We're going to move these, so it's importing. Yeah, and if I didn't mention, I apologize. Again, this is not a Vue kind of like tutorial. It's just like we're going to go over and build an app without knowing knowledge or without having the knowledge. But I will just add just a couple of like explanation here and there. So basically, if you are like me, a React developer, and you haven't dabbled with other frameworks, you should. And if you haven't, Vue is a bit different than React. Well, a lot different than React. I might get a lot of hate about this, but I feel like Vue is a bit similar to Angular. So if you know Angular, I feel the transition to Vue would be very easy for you, and vice versa, because both of them, they use the same style of writing. Instead, like the differences between, there's a lot of differences, but the main one is like structure wise. You have an HTML file and then a JavaScript file, and which is your controller, and you could kind of like, you know, swap data and swap like variables in the JavaScript. And then like in the HTML, you'll have like curly braces, or, you know, the mustache, kind of like a syntax where you could add the variables. But in Vue, you're going to have a file specifically called Vue, which is different than Angular, because Angular just uses JavaScript and HTML. With Vue, you have three sections. You have your scripts. This is where you're going to handle your JavaScript, your reactivity, all your state management and all that, and data and props. And you're going to have your HTML, which you have to wrap within a template. If you don't do that, honestly, I don't know what happens, but I feel like maybe the app will crash. Not sure, but you have to put template. I feel like maybe because if you create a component without a template, it's not going to get it imported. But anyways, and you have your styles. So one of the cool things about Vue is like everything, you have it in here. You don't have to learn a new language like JSX. You don't, which I feel like a lot of developers, usually who's not a React developer, hate JSX for some reason. But that's a debate for another day. So just a quick overview. That's how the Vue structure will be. You can actually change the places to these, like the order does not matter. It will still works. But you know, usually like script middle, script at the top, middle is the HTML, and the styling at the bottom. So, right. I wanted just to maybe delete those two as well. We don't need any styling because we're going to strictly use Tailwind. So we have the assets component, which is app view. So let's do, I don't know, an H1. Hello world. And then we could save, and we could see immediately we have stuff rendering. Great. And now let's go ahead and just try Tailwind. Let's just install Tailwind. Because I feel like we did clear out a lot of stuff. So let's do that. npm install. Let's open a new PowerShell, since that's what we're using. Let's use Tailwind CSS. So it's using the -D, which is like a developer or dev dependency. So we're going to go ahead and run this command, which will init our Tailwind, which is going to create a Tailwind config. That's basically what you need. And we have an error here. Interesting, because maybe, okay, so ESLint is complaining this is a model, and it's kind of not, because it's outside of the product file. So we can do, since it's a dev dependency, honestly, I don't care about it that much. We could just say ignore patterns and ignore patterns. So I'm just going to ignore it from my ESLint config. Like so, and the error is gone. Great. So that's that. Yeah, not sure about that. A reload, maybe. Should make it work. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Here we need content. So this is going to be a bit different. So it's going to get to source and all that. But instead of JS HTML, we're going to use TS and Vue. And maybe JS as well. I want to keep maybe Vue at the beginning. So this should apply, should start applying at least the styling to the Tailwind styling to our Vue app. And now we need to add this to main CSS just to import all these packages. Not sure if we need those, but let's try to see. If not, because I need to probably Google like how to or check TypeScript if they have anything about Vue. Let's see if we go to VDApp and then refresh. Let's do class equals to, what is it, text-xl or text white. Yeah, I think we need the pre-CSS as well. So let's check here and say like Vue maybe. Let's go here, Vue Tailwind. Install CSS with Vue. So we did this creation, but this is React. Is there anything for Vue? Oh, using Vue. There you go. So we created the template. The template have been created. Okay, so we need to install these two. Okay. Okay. There we go. And then let's try npx tailwind init -p, and that created this. The error is gone now, no problem. And now we need index HTML. Okay, see that's what we did miss. Let's copy this whole content because that's the only thing. And we're not going to use, well, we're probably going to use JS and TS, but we're not going to use JSX. Okay, and then let's go add this here, which I assume it did. And then we should run the app again. And let's see now if things get hooked up. And it seemed because I did add text white, so let's do X large. And there we go. If we change this to, is it L? Yeah, there we go. Small, SM? Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Great. So we got Tailwind hooked up. We need to get Daisy UI. So not sure why Daisy UI are using, like they wanted us to install this stuff, not dev, but I'm not gonna listen. And I'll just install it in a dev dependency. So let's go back to Tailwind config and we're gonna replace this plugin. And now we should have, there we go. We should have Daisy UI already installed. That's great. Like the difference between this experience and having, you know, like Material UI set up, and it's just Material UI is just so annoying sometimes. But yeah, that's amazing. Let's get a theme going. Dark. So we can go ahead to our index HTML. We're gonna go to HTML here. We're gonna add not cupcake, but we're gonna add the dark. And boom, we have our dark theme. Great. All right. Last but not least, I need maybe icons installed. So let's see what Daisy UI. What what Daisy UI offers for icons. So Daisy UI icons. Do we have maybe Tailwind? Tailwind icons. Resources. Nope. Beautiful UI component. Nope. Hero icons. There we go. This sounds interesting. Cool. Let's go to the documentation, see how we can add this. React, and we have Vue. That's great. Again, with not the dev dependency. What's wrong with you guys? All right, so let's do this. Add it as a dev dependency. And once that installed, we're gonna go and see. Oh, cool. So you just import, export stuff. Let's close everything else. And beaker icon. I have an error here. Let me just do this maybe first. Interesting. Cannot contain ES model exports. If you are using previous version, please consult to update RFC. This could be because of this setup, maybe. Yeah. We have a beaker. What if I want to keep it? Can I just remove this? Yeah, I can. Great. So now we have a beaker. Great. And maybe like we could just say, actually we could just like delete this color and we could have it like inheriting the color from there. This is great. I love this already. So far, no hurdles whatsoever. That's great. Let's recap what we did. We just installed Vue and we hooked up Tailwind, Daisy UI, and also we did use an icon library called Hero Icon, which is great. Hero Icons, sorry, which is great. All right, so the next step, we're gonna create the layout of our app. And I'm gonna basically maybe have it like split into a couple of pieces or a couple of components. My main component is this one, which is the expense item. I would say we can call it, or expense row, whatever, or expense input. Everything else will be in the app. We can handle the logic in the app.vue, and this one would be a separate component because it's gonna repeat. Everything else will stay there. So here's the plan, or the next plan. We're gonna create the main layout. We're gonna have like some sort of like a banner in the center. This should be like in the center, and then we're gonna add our button. We're gonna add our divider, and then the total, and then we can add like an expense item, and then we could migrate it to a component. So for now, we could just we're gonna just add those as layout, and then we will start dabbling with the JavaScript part. So let's go ahead and start doing this. Okay, so let's go ahead and just set up the layout. First of all, we need to search for something that represents this middle object. So let's go to our middle screen. Let's go to Daisy UI, see their layout. Do they have anything for that? Hero. Sure, hero looks nice. So we will do this. We'll add this hero here. Let's look at beat. And we have our hero. Perfect. So now what we need to do is to add a border. Let's just do that. Let's do maybe here, border -2. Now we have that. And we're going to do it rounded MD, as I assume. Yes, that is correct. Maybe let's remove this max width. Just to see, just wanted this item to be a bit bigger. Well, that's a lot. Then let's change this to X large. There we go. Here is going to be our header, which we're going to call it expense tracker app. We can remove this paragraph. And then what I wanted to do, this button, to shift it to the right add an icon in the center, and we have our button in the layout right here. So let's just do that. Okay, so what happens is I just created this div, I wrapped the button with it, and then added my plus icon, gave it a margin of right to 2 just to separate this plus with the text, and then added a margin top 6 to the button so it will just push it down a bit away from the header. Perfect. Now let's add the divider and the total, because this one will take a bit longer time. So let's start with the easiest one. The idea is just to add the header or divider here, and then we'll add a div that contains the 2 text. One is called total and the other is going to be the price. So let's see if Daisy UI has anything about a divider. So, which it does. Perfect. So let's, no, I don't want this or in center. We can just use this one. Right here. Like so. So now we have our divider, and then we will create a div that contains both text, which for now, let's just make them as an h3, and we'll have total for $signs. Now, of course, the layout is not perfect, so let's make sure to give it a class of flex. And then we can just do justify around. Perfect. Let's add an empty div just to push these 2 a bit to the left. Maybe 2 of those. Perfect. And the reason for that 2 is basically we're going to have 4 components in here, and I want these to be laid below exactly those 2 inputs. Perfect. So that's done. The next step, we're going to create the new component, and then we'll add all these 4 items in it. Okay, let's go ahead and create our component. So we will call it expense item.view. And then we will have our script. We need to add the setup as well. And then we'll add the template. And this error I'm having here is basically, it probably needs some components. Perfect. So let's go ahead and import this. It's imported manually. So expense item from components expense view. And we have an error. Could not find a declaration file for the modal. Oh yeah, we need this lang just to tell view we have lang ts. Good. And now we have our expense component. Perfect. Let's add a div, just a wrapper for this expense component, because I need to give it a bit of a margin top. Actually, let's give it a margin top and margin bottom. What was it in? I think it's my. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So now in our expense item, I'm going to add 2 inputs, 2 buttons, and we'll add the icons inside, and we are done with our component. So I'll write this and then I'll explain everything after I come back. Okay, so in Daisy UI, I went ahead and checked what is the text input here. and I grabbed this form control and label. I copied it, I pasted here, and then I had my first input, my second input, and then for the buttons, I actually liked the square buttons. So also in Daisy UI, you go to button, and then right here, I used those two buttons, and I actually kept the same thing, kept one of them with the border and the one without, like an outline, and things looks better now. And what I just did, I used the grid system or grid classes in Tailwind that has 3 distinct elements. So this is how I split up my grid. Basically, I have the first column is going to be the description, the second column is going to be the price, and then we're going to have the first button and then the second button. Cool. Now I need to maybe color those into something, I don't know. Let's see what colors does Daisy UI have, and then we can just see. Maybe we'll give the secondary for the edit one, and then maybe we can give the error to the delete one. Maybe we could swap those outline. I don't like the outline to be on the main button. There we go. That looks better. Perfect. And again, I'm not going to be perfect at styling these. I just want to make sure, am I going to be able to build this app, or how fast I'm going to build this app. So styling, not that important to me at this moment. Obviously, if I'm building this for a client, I'll take care of this app. But for now, this is just, as we said, it's going to be a test run to see if we can beat up the AI. Perfect. So we have our component ready. Now what we need to do is to get to the actual learning stuff, which using this library or this guide to like heavily just to basically attach things together and make the logic work. What is the logic that we're going to have? Well, basically, let's just write everything down, and then after that we'll discuss what are the things or the main things we'll try to learn to make this app work. So these are the main things that I need for my app to work. That's it. That's all I need. The conditionals, what am I going to use for the conditionals? When you click the edit button, that's how I'm thinking, is basically to swap this input or this text to an input. And if you save, it will swap from the input to a text. So that's the conditional. Also, this icon will change basically depending on the edit mode. So that's that. Event handlers, we explain those, all these button clicking kind of thing. That's what we need to learn from that view. How to store data, how to sum up the amount, how to handle state within a component, and then how to pass props to a child. Now, obviously this component is going to be the child component for the app view. And what also we want to learn is how to maybe bubble up a state to parent. We're not using a state management system, so this is very important because once we edit those, we want to push back the data because the data will be in our app.js. This is where our state gonna be or variable is gonna be. So these are the main components that we're gonna learn, and come with me and let's just start to learn these now. Okay, so first things first, let's look at conditional rendering. And this is basically, how view is actually handling if statement. So it seems that we have a v-if and a v-else, and the v-if, it depends on a value, and then the v-else, it does not. So if we click this, which is cool because like now we actually hit two main points. We hit the conditional and event handlers. We can see that it uses the add click, and they're using like the logic inside. Cool. And v else if will make sense. So let's start by trying to change the icon from edit to save. So let's see if they have a save icon here. They don't. The check mark will work. So check. Okay. So what we need to do is in our expense item, we need to have this conditional to check if it's in edit mode. Then we will have it save to check the save. And then if it's not, we're going to handle it like this. So let's see. We're going to create a variable and we're going to call it. I wanted to make sure to see like how am I going to use the variable. So I'm just going to say const, and let's call it is editing because this is a Boolean, and we'll start as false. And then right here, we can add v-if. Equals to is editing. And if I save, now this icon is gone. So that's good. What we need is another icon, which is check icon. Actually, let's use the check circle. Maybe it looks better. Like so. And now, what did they say? Just v-else. So let's do this. Okay. So if I change this false to true, would it hide this? Like how does it know this is related to editing? That's my question, is like how this v-else. Is it just because we have it here? Let's add this here. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so v-else needs to stay really close. That's what it says. Has no adjacent v-if or v-s-elf. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. All right, perfect. So we learned how to do conditionals. Now, I'm not going to do yet the changing the input to a text because I just wanted to make sure first like things are working, but I just want to learn first and then I'll start to build the logic. So conditionals, can we say check for it? We can. We learn conditionals. And maybe some event handlers. So we can also, like we did learn how to add the click, which let's actually try it out right now. So when I click on this button, so add click, let's toggle is editing to see maybe, yeah, I mean, like we could click on it and we just toggle this like so. Okay. So that is not working, and maybe because it is on the same place. So let's try it to here. No. Okay. So obviously this is a variable that is not changing. So we want to understand how did this actually work here and not there. So let's look at, it says like try it in a playground. So let's look at that code. Okay, so they're using export default, and this is the data that returns awesome true, which I'm assuming this is the state. So, but again, with this setup, I cannot use export default. So not sure how to handle states with the setup. So let's look for that. And can we search for, I don't know, state? Again, they're using export default, but I can't. I want to use with the setup. So maybe they're calling it in a different manner. Maybe it's not a state. Maybe it's a... Let's check reactivity. Okay. Okay. So it seems that they're using ref. And how they import ref. Let's see an example. They're not showing how they're importing ref. I'm assuming it's coming from view. Let's see. So if we say ref here, there is no action. Oh, there we go. So which one? Which one I should... All right, so ref. Template ref. Honestly, this is a bit confusing because like the documentation is not clear. How do I handle data? Reactivity fundamentals. Again, with the export default, I need to see, like, is there any way I can change the version? Is this like the old version? Is this the new? I don't know. Options, composition. Okay, maybe that's why. Reactivity fundamentals. Reactive state. We can create a reactive object with an array. So this is the way that they handle state, is to, yeah, this is like similar to useState, I'm assuming. So let's do this. Let's import reactive and let's create a state. And maybe we can do this. But now I don't have access to his editing. So how can I call this? Is it just state dot? Yeah. I just don't like that. Can I do this? I sure can. But now I'm losing everything. Like we're not even showing this. Maybe because I'm having, nope. So this should be maybe a variable. State. And then still not importing it. Oh, there we go. And still not changing it. Okay, so let's see how do they change stuff. Again, with the export default, I cannot do that. State reactive. So they're handling this in a function. I mean, let's do that. I don't know what's the difference, but state dot is editing, and this will be the opposite. Let's call it flip. And then add click increment, so we can just do this. Okay. So where we at? Here, let's refresh. Nope. Let's see if this actually works. So let's do let's stop this for now, and let's open the console And it seems that I'm not. Am I actually having add click? Add click is on the wrong spot. Oopsie daisy. Okay. Okay, there we go. Did I have it on the wrong spot the whole time? Okay. I probably did. Yeah. So if I have... All right, I need to check this pretty quick. If you give me a second. Let's do... Because I had the variable in the wrong spot, so I just want to make sure. Yeah, that's not doing anything. So yeah, if I revert back, then that works. Okay. I just don't know why this deconstructing is not working. Maybe because reactive does not... I mean, we're saying state dot, so let's actually console log. State. I'm curious. What's inside state? Okay. Let's see if we do this. Yeah, it's undefined. So yeah, that's kind of like this reactive. Yeah, like not sure how to deconstruct it. Can I do const is editing equals to state? I mean, this is way far-fetched, but let's see. And then is declared is not used, so is editing. Hey, there we go. Now, here's $1 million question. Can I do this? Nope, I can't. Because now we are defining it as a variable. It's not reactive anymore. Okay, that makes sense. So, unfortunately, we have to keep using this word state. It's a bit annoying, honestly. I don't like it, but this is not to judge a framework. This is basically just to learn how to use a new framework. Maybe another video we can view for this. But so far, yeah. I mean, we know how to handle reactive stuff. Is there any other way to handle reactive stuff? So, because I've seen ref, I'm not sure if there's like differences between the two. Like so. So, okay, so when you ref, yeah, obviously, because you have a value. I want to try this. So maybe we can just have ref here. And now maybe in count, we can just say add click equals to, oops. Can I say count dot value plus plus, or maybe console, wait, value of, how do I access? Oh, I just need count here. Huh. Okay. So let's add a function. And then what is it like? Just like this, and then count like so. And then maybe we can just add, like maybe right here. How do I add the value? All right. So value is not needed here, which is interesting. So in the HTML, the value is not, dot value is not needed. So yeah, that actually also works. But now it's a value and it's a separate. Can I do? But now we don't need the value. And this should be state dot. And now here should be state dot. Okay, so yeah, so reactive is basically like you squeeze all your variables within one object, which I kind of like because it's everywhere there. If I do refs, I might lose track of those if I had like multiple stuff. So I'll keep the reactive and I'll keep the state. It's fine if I use state dot. I mean, obviously it's the same thing like where you could say like count dot value. The cool thing about refs is like you don't have to use value inside the HTML. So yeah, I mean, we can use that. It's fine. Whatever. Event handler, we got that. Perfect. I think we can just also, we did handle state. So now all we have to do is like how we can pass props to a child. So can we just search for props? Okay. So, all right, I'm not gonna take long here. Like I don't want to bore you guys with my like searching of like how to define props, but I will just look into it, learn it, and then come back and let you know how long it took. Okay, so perfect. That it didn't take a long time. Yeah, so basically what we need to do to pass props, we have two types of props. We have a dynamic prop, and then we have a static prop. A static prop is without this colon, you actually literally send a message or whatever like string directly like so. It's if you wrap it with double quotes. So it will grab the value here and render it. Now, how do you capture it here? Well, you have this define props. For some reason, the other one, it didn't work. Not sure why. Because I literally used this one and it just didn't work. And if we go back here, well, that worked now. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, I've noticed a couple of like glitches like this one. I don't know. Maybe like a hard refresh will fix that. But to the point, I guess, I don't know. Define props with like a function. I don't know what's honestly the difference. But basically this is how you define your props, and then you will define the type of it. And as you can see, like the props here is with dashes. I feel like this is like the way that Vue prefer how to pass in props. So you can keep this as like this one. And then here you can just literally directly have it, you know, right here passed in as a normal value. You don't need to use dot value. You don't need to use anything else. Now the dynamic, you need to add this colon. Once you added that, now here the value inside, this should be dynamic. So this should be a variable that you declared at, you know, like your top or parent level. I use the ref here. You don't have to if this is like a fixed value, but this is a dynamic value, so apparently like, or maybe like you should definitely have it hooked up to a state. So if we just add another value to message, that changed the value. Okay. So I guess we can just scratch how to pass in props. We learn how to pass props. Now we wanted to pass a value up a level. So I'm just gonna learn this. I'm gonna speed up the video. I'm gonna learn this and go back and explain things. Okay, so I needed to figure out how to push stuff, and then the document was a bit confusing also about like how to send stuff. So I had to go back and forth about like events and all that. But the gist of it is basically in your child component, you would go ahead and create an emit. An emit uses a define emits, and define emits is understood by view. It's already declared, so you don't have to import anything, and that's cool, I guess, because we didn't have to import anything. And then you declare what is the emit message is, or like let's say like what is it called, what is the name of it. And you can definitely emit couple of messages or a couple of functions, whatever, and you can then use this emit which will take two parameters. The first one is like the event name, and then the arguments. And the arguments are the value or whatever you want to send, or at least that's what I understood. So what I did, I created an emit, and then I added it to a click function, and then that click function added it to that trash icon. And then I passed in this new value from here. And in the app view, which is the parent, to capture that, you wanted it to use the @ symbol with the same name that the emit name is, but with the dashes instead. Honestly, I didn't know if this is going to work or not if we change it, because this is annoying to go back and forth. Yeah, that works as well. So I might just like not use this dash anymore, because this is confusing. Like dash here, dash not there. It's just a bit confusing. Anyway, so now you can add it to change message, which I tie it to a function called update. And then basically like this, whatever you pass in here, that's the value that you passed from there. So literally we can just send an object, not just only or an array or whatever data we want. So maybe we could say value equal maybe new message, and then I don't know, number is 10, and then maybe boolean is false. So we could literally like send a couple of pieces of data, not just only a string. And here I'm just gonna say any for the TypeScript validation, and instead of here, we can just say, let's call it data, and then this is gonna be data.value, but I'll just console.log data. And if we click, we can see that we have like the full, whatever you could set, like any data. And also I'm assuming you could pass in functions. So great. So now we know how to handle or push data from child to a parent. Now, all we need, those three actually, like the expense, it's just going to be an array. And this array will have an object that contains a couple of attributes. And this is just going to be like a normal higher order function kind of utilization to update and add the, the objects to the array. So it's not that much. All these going to be just like the main logic of the app. I just wanted to learn those main tasks or the main functionality of Vue. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things in Vue going on. I just like scratched the surface. There's tons of stuff. Like even they have some sort of like state management, which does have like it goes way beyond just basically like here, like you have like you could create like some sort of a hook that does the use count for you, or you could actually use the Spinia, which basically that's a state management library. So yeah, I mean, this is cool so far. There are pluses and minuses in my opinion. Like I don't want to compare, but you know, I'm a developer. I have to compare. There are some stuff that the document should be clearer, I think. Just in my opinion. That like kind of having like the dash, where did I find this? Was it in EMIT? Let's see. Oh yeah, maybe like emitting here. Yeah, so like they're using like camel case here, and then like they're using like the snake or the dashes here, which technically it worked without that. That is confusing. I don't know. Maybe because before Vue uses this way of syntax, so not sure. That's kind of a bit confusing. And also like going back between the new composition API and like the old data. See like here it changes from this function to a method. Also, this is not that clear. Like it should maybe highlight it just to say like, hey, this is like the new way. This is the preferred way. Because in their introduction, they try to push this new setup stuff. Like once you add this setup, you're just telling Vue you're using the composition API. And if you don't know, if you haven't dabbled with Vue before, Vue was a different language until the composition API came out. And when it came out, it had all these new stuff that Vue, which it was like with around Vue 3, which I haven't touched, so that's why I don't know anything about it. But apparently it's like they're trying to make things simpler because you have to define the old way you have to define stuff. Like you have to have an export default kind of functionality, and this was where you added the state stuff. So it was kind of different. So maybe like they just wanted to get rid of this and they added the setup. Not here to judge. That's how they handled in Vue. But yeah, great. We actually tackled all these elements. Now we have the final step, I think, is just to basically let this app make this app functional. So we're gonna stop here, and then when we continue, we will continue with fixing or adding all these logics in here. Okay, so now let's just create a mock data. So let's call the const, I don't know, expenses equals to, I'm gonna call it a ref, and then we're gonna have some data, and in the data here, let's see, what do we need? We need an ID, so we can follow it later. As could be a number, could be something. Not sure how am I gonna handle IDs, but for now let's have just number. We need a title, or not a title, sorry, description. And in this description, well, I don't know, iPhone 14 Pro. Whatever, it's just some mock data. And then we're gonna have a price of yeah, sure. And maybe we need also to store if the state of this element is editing. So actually we're gonna start as true. So let's save that. And then one important things, how can we loop stuff? I completely forgot about that. So let's copy this. How can do a for loop? See, sometimes you forget stuff, but eventually, like when you have a list like this, it's just gonna make your life way easier. So for loop in view, how can we handle iterations? So I'm assuming something related with for, and there it is. So let's see. So v4, we need to turn on the composition API. So literally you put v4 on the item itself, or the thing that you want to mention, or the thing that you want to iterate over, and it's going to use the in syntax, and that's pretty simple. So let's just get to it. And let's go back here and just mark this as done. We did learn that. So now let's make this 2 just to see like how our app is gonna render when we have a new data. And then like maybe iPad, I don't know what's the iPad in these days. 125 Pro, sure. $15,000, great. And this one may be false. Great. So let's just get expenses in here, and then let's keep those. Let's get into a new line. And then our for loop syntax would be, now I'm thinking about it, maybe like we need to make those as a list item, or nah, just this is, yeah, we don't need to. So we could just say v4, I'm assuming, and then equals to, and then expense in expenses. And now I'm trying to think, like, is this should be on the item itself? Yeah. So it's on the li, it's not on the stuff inside. That's okay. Can I use like immediately like those values within the prop? Oh, so they're deconstructing it. They can, which is cool. That's a nested loop. I just want to see like if I can use, or is this a best practice to use the value? Similar to template VF, you can also use a template tag v4 to render a block multiple elements. Yeah, sure. I just want to know, like, should I just put this here? Let's see. So let's just do this. And why is this complaining? Oh, it needs a key. Okay, so how can I do that? vbind key, is that it? Equals to, and now you can say expense.id. Would that work? Oh, not expenses, expense. That is not working. Should I remove this vbind? Nope. Maybe the item here. Okay, so it's complaining about expense, and expense is not used. Do we have an expense variable? No. So expenses and expense, and then I did expense.id. Do I need just to reload the window? Let's see. Oh my god. Okay. No. Still there's a problem. So V4 item and items. I'm not seeing if I'm missing something. Maybe like a lot of people just gonna yell at me. Be like, hey. Okay. Why expenses didn't work? Oh, do I need to wait? Yeah, so do I need to do like expenses.value or something? And then maybe expense. Is that it? And maybe we could grab this here. Wow. Okay. Now it worked. Okay, I'm confused. But hey, it worked. Okay. So yeah, so we have the key. So the key is not for the child, it's for the same element. And this tells me I can actually use like the elements within within the looper here. So in that case, actually we could just do ID description, price, and is editing. And then we can just take all these. We can remove expense.id. We could keep it as ID. And then we could just say ID is ID. Is editing. Is editing. And what I also need to do, yeah, this is really weird stuff because like, oh yeah, I need to do this. That's my fault. Sorry. Okay. And description has a problem. Did I misspell it? I did. So let's take this one here, here, here. There we go. Things working now properly. Let's go here, define those. We need to remove these. We could just say, oops, string for now, and then this is maybe a number, number, and then boolean. Okay. Perfect. So now we passed all these values. Now we can actually do something with it. Let's look at what happened here. And perfect. We have the two items exactly like so. So let's remove this message because we don't want it. And then let me close that. I'll keep the EMIT just because maybe the greeting message is a bit cleaner. And let me see. Now we need to tie the values to here. And let's see. So instead of this reactive, I'm trying to see like how am I going to use this. So can we just do that and then instead of state dot editing, something like this. And yeah, we could remove this delete, or sorry, edit. So yeah, now the value is correct. Okay. Now, what I need to do is basically just to have the input to save for, yeah, like to show the description here instead of type here. So let's see how we can actually add to input stuff. Form input binding. Oh, so literally just like the value. And this is like if there is any input. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's just do this. So in here, we're going to just say value, and instead of text, this is going to be description. And then we're going to take the same thing, expand this. Will be price. And if we go back, now we have the data. Perfect. Okay, that's cool. And they have like something is like add input. Is it similar to add change or on change? Do we have an on change in here? I don't know, but it seems like there is like an event for input. So we're going to just grab this. And then instead of doing this, maybe we could pass in a function. Handle input, I guess. And then we can use this. Let's actually create a new function, const handle input, and I assume there is an event here. And then let's console.log event.target.value, but just let's make it E. Where did we add that? On which input? We did put it on the input, the first one. So let's see if we... Oh, perfect. Okay. Awesome. So this is similar to on change. So in order to define it, I'm just going to name this one description. And we're going to do the same thing for this one. And we'll call it price. And what we want is to, let's just put this as any for now. I don't know what's the TypeScript handle, maybe like Vue handles like React. So we'll check that later, but for now, let's just do any. And let's call this event name equals to e.target.name. And then maybe we could just do the same thing, event value, or let's actually call it input name and input value. It's named better. And then we could just say if input name equal to price, then we can just say I'm going to have a description here as well. Oops. Description, which is going to start. Actually, can I do description? Description is not defined, but we can use it. We can't use it here. Oops. We can use it here. So how can I like set this to the prop immediately? Or at least can I do that? Can we do this? Nope. All right, let's see. View set state from prop. Composition API. So this is using the export default again. Like this API is just using, is not, they're not talking about composition API. So this is not helpful. Okay. Okay, what is this computed? State.value. All right, I'll go over this very, very quick, and when I come back, I'll just explain what I discovered. Okay, so just discovered how to do so. So basically, this define props. The previous way we did it, we used this as a type definition, and then this kind of functionality, like just executing it and just doing this, it made it globally accessible. But the right way to define a state from a prop is basically just to make or use this define props function and pass in those types within it and then assign it to a variable called props. And this is the example here, and you could use it now with this props. But now let's see, is editing actually working? And it is. So like here we need to use it as props dot description. I was worried like I needed to do props dot is editing, but it seems okay, I guess. And the values are actually showing correctly. So inside the script, I just need to say props dot description or something, and then basically that's it. So maybe what we can do is just to repeat all these. Okay, so here now we can just say state dot price equals, so all this work just to do this. So we could just say a return same thing, but instead of state.price, we're gonna say state.description, and this will be the value. So now well, if I refresh, this is gonna go away. So we need some sort of like a save kind of functionality here. So like an on save function. Okay, so now we need to just create this save functionality. So let's create a function called save expense, which is going to be similar to the one below. And we're going to emit something, but we need to make sure. So this happens on save. So whenever the, let's say the state dot is editing, I just want only this will run when this is not in editing mode. Okay, so because like when you click the save, it exit from yeah, when you click it, it changes to false. So yeah, like let's make it state is editing. And then what I wanted to do is to grab the emit, which similar to this one. Oops. We're gonna call it save expense. And we need to also add this here. And we can just say copy everything. And instead of props, we just gonna say state. And then or we can just say state dot is editing equals to state dot is editing. I mean, this is maybe this is an overkill. All I need is just to do this. And this should change is editing all the way up. So this should work. Yeah, because I don't need to track is editing here. All I need is just like to pass it down. Good. So now we're gonna go here and save expense, and we're gonna use same name. Keep data. We can just delete this. Now, if we click this one, oh, we need to actually call the function. So this one will be on this button. So add click equals to save expense. There we go. Perfect. But what I noticed, the is editing is not changing. So maybe we actually do need to say this equals to this. Let's refresh. Maybe this one is like actually props, not okay. There we go. So yeah, I needed to check the props instead. Maybe like if we can do this. Nope. Yeah, we need to change the state. Okay. Yeah, because either way I'm using this state. Maybe like if I could just do this. Refresh, false, false, false. No, yeah, we need this. We need the state to be changed. Okay, that's fine. All right, so now we need to do the same thing for updating. So let's get ahead and just write the update function. So honestly, I just noticed I don't need actually handle input should does the update for me. So I need to make the update here. I need to change the data here when I click the change. So let's do that. Okay, so let's refresh and let's actually get this going. So this will be expenses dot value, I assume. And we're gonna just do dot value dot map, and this will return expense, and then we will check. We need to return here before we forget, and then we need to check if expense dot id equals to data dot id, then return data. Otherwise, return expense. Okay, so now this is not working. I mean, I'm getting the data correctly. Let's actually try to see what expenses. Price is expected as a number, so we might need to do this. Was that the error? Okay. So maybe what I need to do is swap those. Yeah, so let's see, like, what is expense dot value? I'm not sure. Let me figure out this error and I'll be right back. What is happening? Let me recap so to see like what's happening. So I'm trying to so maybe like my head is not clear, but like my idea is basically when you click on edit mode, this should change the edit to a checkbox. And then you can be able to edit everything. And once you're done, you click that checkbox and it will save everything else. So I'm pretty sure because of I'm using like the same name over everywhere, I'm pretty sure there's something got messed up. So let me look into it and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. But learning a new framework sometimes gets frustrating. So what happened? We kept the same expenses value and I mapped through it. It did change the data, but my mistake was not using the state here and not using state here and not using state right here. So I was doing props instead of editing instead of the state. So that's it. I just changed those two and now it's working. So in edit mode, we can just add a number and click save, and now it saved it. So that worked. Great. So a couple of functionality left. One of them is just I wanted to change this input, which what we're going to do is like literally the same. Maybe actually, you know what? Maybe without changing the input, what we can do is just adding a disabled. And this one will also be, it will be disabled if it's editing. The opposite, if it's not in editing mode. So we're going to copy this as well, paste it here. And, oh, we need this one right here. So yeah, so now it's in edit mode. Once you do this, you can't edit it anymore. Perfect. Great. So that's fixed. We need to couple of things left. We need to add a functionality here, add a functionality to the delete, and add a functionality to basically just have the sum of these numbers. So let's pretty quick do this. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna handle the delete first. And in the delete, it's just going to be simple. When I click on this button, all I need is just to go and just actually emit stuff, which I just want to emit directly the ID. So how can I do this instead of having a function? Can I do, I think I've seen, this is like my bane. I was like searching for like how to do stuff, but anyways, emitting and listening event. I've seen something where like they're emitting, like that's what I want. I just needed it to be a one-liner, and this one is like delete expense, and what I want is just state .id. That's it. That's literally all I need to add. I'll make this edit, remove this function because we don't need it right now. Go back to app, change this or duplicate it to delete expense. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Delete expense. Now we're going to pass an ID. An ID is a number for this case. And instead of doing so, maybe we could just actually just like do probably like a filter. So we could just say filter, and if expense ID equals to ID, then just delete all this, and we could just say like return anything that is not from that ID. So let's see now. This should work. First try. Okay, so let's just do some cleanup. We need to create the add functionality. So let's just do this. Const add expense equals to, we need to add an expense. So we don't need to pass in anything. So literally what we're going to do is just say new expense. And this will equals to ID. We need to think about like what do we need to add for an ID here. So let's do description. Actually, I could just copy all this. And then this one is going to be an empty string. And this one is going to be 0. And this one starts as true. Now for the ID, let's use the new crypto API, new-ish. So crypto is actually an API that is already exists in JavaScript. Before we used to have to install like a dependency for UUID. Now we don't. So yeah, this will generate a random UUID for me every time. And once that happens, we just need to push this new expense to expenses. I'm kind of afraid just to do value.push, but I'm just going to try it and see what's going to happen. So is that value, expense value? Can I just do push? For some reason, this been acting a bit weird. See, like expenses.value here is working, but upstairs is not. So, not sure. I'm just gonna keep it this way. And in this button, I'll add click equals to add expense. So yeah, it is returning to an undefined. Oh yeah, you know what? Because I used the same one. Didn't I just say like new expense? What happened to that? Yeah, there we go. And okay, so this is gonna be a problem. So yeah, UID are strings. Actually, not big of a deal. We can just go back here and change this one to a string, and then I guess that's it. Oh yeah, because here we need to make it as a string. Perfect. And we could just delete those. Ignore it. As if like you haven't seen it. Perfect. Nice. All right, so add expense, save expense, almost update expense is also done. We just need to calculate the total, and we have an app. So let's do that. So const calculate total, and this is gonna be a function that will return. We need to kind of loop over, and you just use reduce for this one. Dot reduce, and then this will give us back the accumulator, the expense, and then we could just say accumulator plus expense dot price. And yeah, we need to add a 0 here. Perfect. So now if we can just say calculate total and replace it with this one right here, and give it a function. And there we go. Great. So let's add numbers, and this keeps adding. And I'm thinking to use the new API. What was it for JavaScript for? Number format. I think it's to locale. JavaScript. I think it's the locale. What was it? Yeah, not date string, just the locale string. This one. And then, yeah, we could just do this. We don't need a time zone. This is just a string. And we could just say this, and just say US. Great, that's what I wanted. Just the comma, because if we want to add more numbers, this is like more readable. Great, awesome. Now, last but not least, we just need to save data. So let's see, view local storage. I'm just gonna assume like local storage is gonna run off the chart. So let's just do it and see how we're gonna add this. So I need to set an item in local storage when I save. So what I'm gonna do is window.local storage.set item, and this will be expenses, and then we'll do JSON.stringify, and then we will just do expenses.value. Perfect. And then maybe like on the delete as well, and delete as well. Let's close this. And then, oops. Where else? I want to check, like, what is the mounted option? How can I write stuff when things are rendered? Global API, option API. Nope. I don't want the global API. They're not using the composition. On mounted? Perfect. That's what I need. Okay, so this is like old React. And do we need to import this from Vue? Yep, we do. And we just need to grab this. And then instead of set item, it's going to be get item. And then can I just do expense.value? Actually, I'm not just gonna, yeah, I'm just gonna do this. Okay, so it's not liking it because this could be an undefined. So let's just do this. Const stored expenses, and then we will check if this is undefined. Oops. Then we will just say yeah, I need to be this to be defined. So we will just say expenses the value equals to stored expenses. Why is it? Oh yeah, right. So JSON.parse. Thank you, ESLint, for letting me know. And that's it. So now let's just go ahead and see if we save. We should see something in the application, which we do. And if we refresh, that's fine. That's not fine because like I don't want use the expenses here. That's why onMounted is here. Maybe we could just do this. Oops. At least the data is right there, but the problem with this reference right now, yeah, it's staying the same for editing. Yeah, maybe because this should be a prop. There we go. Perfect. And save, delete item, refresh, edit item, 1, 2, 3, save, refresh, edit item. Let's change it. Let's refresh, and it keeps it. It's not saved. Great. Awesome. I think we're all done. Yeah, we have a full app that has everything ready. Great. Awesome. That was an experience. I learned a lot from this, and I hope you did as well. So the video will end here because in the next video, we will be using ChatGPT to build the same app again. And we will see if it is easier, harder, or AI will just do everything for us. So consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you won't miss next video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. And as always, stay curious.